one night. He said, "What do you wear that Star of David?" I said, "You really don't want to know." "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I want to know." I said, "You really don't?" "Yeah, tell me." I took off, went brrrr for about 15 minutes. "Well, you don't have to preach to me." I said, "Well, you ask." Sometime I'd corner people and talk about predestination in some big fancy club. And somebody would say, "You sound like a preacher." I said, "I am. I got to go do my next set. Excuse me."
Have another drink. I got to go sing.
Lordy mercy. Haven't we been heathens? God forgive us. It's a wonder God didn't kill me. Now Dwayne knows what I'm saying.
Then you have to fight for your money.
Yeah. We've been there, hadn't we? Gosh, Lord, forgive me for my foolishness. Oh, man. Now, this is why he put him in prison. He cast him into the place of no knowledge. He forbid him from deceiving the Gentile church. And that's what it says. And shut him up and set a seal, sphragizo, signature. God says, my mark is upon him, and don't nobody open this seal. When you put a sphragizo, S-P-H-R-A-G-I-Z-O, it means a signature. This word seal, it's a private mark or a signature. When we sign our name on a piece of paper, we write a signature, and we sign a contract. It's sealed, and nobody can undo it. Now, the way they would seal something, they would roll up a scroll. Everybody would sign the agreement. They'd roll it up. And if it had the king's official seal on it, you were forbidden to touch it. If you touched the seal of Rome and you broke it, you could die. You didn't do that. God says, my seal is on it. I am commanding nobody touch it but me. Satan is bound away from the church, and he cannot get to the church. They can't be fooled. They may go off in their sin, but I'll beat them all the way home, and they'll do what I tell them. Then he says that he is a reference back. He shut him up and set a seal on him for this reason, that he should deceive the nations no more for a period of time, till the 1,000 years was finished. Nations is the word ethnos. We get our word ethnic from that. It means non-Jews. There's a set of non-Jews somewhere in time that God is not going to allow Satan to deceive. The only place you can find that anywhere in history is the last 2,000 years, the Gentile church, when God pours out of His Spirit on all flesh. Satan is in prison. He has been imprisoned in the darkness and forbidden from deceiving the Gentile elect family of God. We can't be deceived. If you belong to God, you won't be deceived, and this message will mean something to you. And I'm looking at the camera, and if this doesn't mean anything to you, I'd turn that dial right now and just go into hell and go party. This is a theme park. I'd ride all the rides. If I had to go to hell, I wouldn't listen to a man like me preach. You have to have the trials. You have to have the tribulation. You have to be born again. And when you're born, God doesn't leave you a baby. He says, I'm going to make you grow up, and it ain't going to be whether you like it or not. I'm going to make you like it. Isn't He? Now, let's go back over to 1 Peter. Well, okay, I'll finish reading. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after the 1,000 years, He'll be loosed a little season. Well, if you look down here in verse 7, when the 1,000 years are expired, thousands years, 2,000 years. There's not going to be 1,000 years after this is all over with. That's not true. That is it's an old doctrine that was brought into the church by the Jews. The Jews wanted their 1,000-year reign. That's not what this is talking about. It's talking about a 2,000-year period. Most scholars will say this is an indeterminate period of time. I believe it's a determined period of time from Acts 2 to the end of time is a 2,000-year period. That was about 35 A.D. 33 to 32 to 35 AD. You say, Jim, are you saying it'll be 2035? I don't know when Jesus is coming, but I don't believe it's long. I don't believe America is going to stand. It can't stand under all this pressure around the world. I believe we're going to see some terrorism, perhaps nuclear terrorism, in the United States. They're supposed to have...
It says years.
Yeah.
S means more than one.
Huh?
The S on the end means more than one.
That's right, but I don't want to go into that right now. It takes too long for me to go into it. It's just too long. So the 1,000 years starts with the forbidding of Satan from deceiving the Gentiles. That has to be in Acts 2, where he pours out of his Spirit on all flesh, the Gentile church. That's the birth of the Gentile church. That's the non-Jews. And then the Gentile church has to grow up. The Gentiles were the spirits in prison, but they're not just going to be birthed into the kingdom and God not say anything to them about their maturity, because Israel was never matured, was they? In the Old Testament, they never matured. They never grew up. They never quit serving their idols and their Baal and their Grove and their gods. They never stopped over here. God says, I've got an Israel that I'm going to see to it that you mature and you grow up. That you mature. Now, let's go back over to first.
When is that
Season?
When is that little season?
Well, that's at the end of time.
That's right now.
I don't know when it starts. I have never seen the world so corrupt and so unstable as it is right now. I was born in 1939. Gosh, 1946 and 47 when I was a little kid seemed like that seems so far away. It seems like another world, another time, another place. It's like some dream I lived in.
Look how technology has changed.
Oh man, it's unbelievable. We used to, if you ever saw anybody, we used to sit around the radio.
Yes.
We'd sit around the radio and listen with our ears up to the radio. And it'd be gangbusters. And then that's what you heard. You know, and we'd listen to gangbusters and we'd sit with our ears to the radio. There wasn't no TV. And Janice would say, Clyde and Jimmy, come in. Mr. District Attorney's on. And we'd go in there and listen to Mr. District Attorney. We listened to Fibber McGee and Molly. I bought a Fibber McGee and Molly. I bought a CD down at Cracker Barrel, Fibber McGee and Molly. I listened to it once in a while in the car. It's just, and it was so simple. Life was so simple.
The word nations in verse 3 and the word nations in verse 8, are we to delineate between those two?
No, that's non-Jews. It's non-Jews.
So he's able to deceive at the end of time.
Well, see, the point is, he's not going to be able to deceive when the Kilias starts. But he's going to go out to deceive the nations.
Try to.
He's going to go out to deceive them. That's going to be his purpose, to deceive them. But he's not going to be able to deceive the church. The church can't be deceived. But he's going to be let loose in the church. And the church is going to get polluted, and that's why they're preaching all this false doctrine in the churches. This is crazy what's going on in the world. I was in high school in the mid-50s. We didn't hear of marijuana. In Beaumont, Texas, I'd never heard of marijuana. I was in the 11th grade, and we had an assembly program, and a guy from the government came in and he played